So, I want to just talk a little bit about Purim. I don't have an outline, so that can be good, that can be horrific. We'll see how it goes. So I don't have an outline tonight. And I want to just share with you the reality of what Purim is really all about. What is the Hebrew word for tonight other than the word that we had up on the wall? What do you think the word would be? Pur, right? It's Purim, pur. What's the Aramaic word pur? It's Hebrew, but it's more Aramaic. What's that word? Lots. Basically dice. Dice. That's what pur is, dice. So the story of Purim has to do with the word pur, which is when they cast lots. First of all, Haman cast lots, and of course that didn't quite work well for him. And then of course the children of Israel cast lots to determine what would be the outcome. The date, I think it was, when the children of Amalek. So who's Haman? He's an Amalekite, right? Who are the Amalekites? They are sons of Esau. Esau had a son, his name was Amalek, and Amalek worshipped Molech. We know what the worship of Molech is all about. And so Amalek, the son of Esau, worshipped a horrible god and became an actual demographic. Initially, they were sons of Abraham, right? Sons of Esau. But then they blended with the other peoples around them. They became more of a spiritual demographic, namely the people who worshipped Molech. Molech. So Amalek is actually what the story of Purim is about. One of the aspects of the story of Purim is about Amalek. Amalek is sort of God's eternal adversary that he will ultimately destroy completely. Amalek is a spiritual demographic. It is a movement that does still exist to today. The very fact that God said, I will make war with Amalek from generation to generation. The implications there, of course, is Amalek will not cease to exist until God finally puts an end to that spiritual demographic. So the people of Amalek is a spiritual people that are very much alive today. We have globalists in the world today that are actually sort of fulfilling the role of Amalek in a more complete way than ever before. Remember that God said concerning Amalek that Amalek was the first of the nations, right? Balaam in Numbers chapter 24 said that. Amalek was the first nation, but its end will be destruction. So what's he referring to? He's referring to Babel, Nimrod's Babel, the first of the nations, but its end will be destruction. So God sees Amalek as sort of a global, aspiring government that's in contrast to his will and purpose, that are united in rebellion against God and working against God's people. This is what Amalek did when God brought the children of Israel out of Egypt. So Amalek in the story of Purim is represented in the person of Haman. Ooh. So if you don't know what that boo is about, in the synagogues, whenever they mention the name Haman, the people will boo. We don't need to do it. It'll take up about 10 minutes. I already have only 25 minutes. So the story of Purim, what does that have to do with Israel today? What does that have to do with us? I said earlier, and it's true, and I'm gonna sort of put emphasis on this, tease it out, as they say, in the next today and then Sunday morning, tonight and Sunday morning. The story of Purim has much more to do with us than it does relate directly to the people of Israel. Of course, the people of Israel lived the story of Purim 2,400 years ago in Susa, the capital of Persia. They lived that story. One aspect of the story of Purim is what we call anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is generated from Amalek. Amalek is that spirit that sort of progenerates, drives, gives impetus to the spirit of anti-Semitism. Is the spirit of anti-Semitism alive and thriving in the world today? It's gaining strength and momentum right now as we speak. I can't even begin to successfully share with you and relate to you just how much anti-Semitism is on the rise again. It is on the rise like it hasn't been, I think, since Babel. You say, how Babel? Semitism didn't exist. Yes, it did. The first Semite who was hated at Babel was Abraham. Abraham. So he is the father of the people of Israel. But anti-Semitism is skyrocketing, if I can use that term. It is spiking. There is a movement, very strong movement, that began with a statement by Louis Farrakhan. Not Louis Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad, back in the 1950s, said that those people in Israel today, they are not actual Jews. They are imposters. Now, when he said that back in the 1950s, Elijah Muhammad, most people thought he was crazy, because he probably was. But that statement has stuck. And many other people have propagated that statement, that the people in the land of Israel today, all of them, and they don't mince words about it, they're all imposters. They're not actually Israel. Now, we would laugh at that, right? We would say, oh, that's nonsense. Many people laughed at Nazi Germany. Many people laughed and said, that's just nonsense. Well, nothing will come of it. I want to tell you, that evil seed is bearing fruit. It is bearing fruit. I have a little video on my phone sent to me by Sandra Barris, taken right here in Orlando, over by the Chabad, the synagogue over there by International Drive. And a handful of guys, maybe 8 guys, 9 guys, dressed like normal people. They're out there spewing the worst type of anti-Semitism at these people coming out of the synagogue. And that's one of the things that they're saying. The people of Israel are all imposters. They're not actual Israel. They're not actual Jews. Now that right there provides the impetus for much hatred. It gives legitimacy to anti-Semitism. And it's building, friends. Now, I know sometimes I appear to be a gloom and doomsayer. Probably I am. But I will not shy away from identifying the reality of what's happening around us. And it's happening. It's building. Not just in this country. You say, okay, that's an American phenomenon. No, it's not. It's building all over the world, in South America, many parts of the world. This is Amalek rising, friends. This is the story of Haman in the story of Esther. He rose to power. His hatred for animus towards Mordecai, the type of Israel, his animus and hatred towards Mordecai, Israel, is what drove him to ascend. And that's what's happening with the spirit of Amalek today. It is ascending, gaining in power and in momentum. It's leading to a certain end. What was the end of Haman in the story of Esther? The very gallows, the very structure that he built for the destruction of Israel, for the destruction of Mordecai, he was hung on it. His end became the end that he intended for Mordecai. This is the end of Amalek. Amalek, according to Balaam the prophet, Amalek will be destroyed by the hands of God. God himself will do it. So let's talk a little bit about the story of Purim. So Xerxes, great Persian king. Xerxes wasn't Medo, he was Persian. Great Persian king. He had a wife, her name was Vashti. She was sort of a prized wife, Vashti, and Vashti is a Hindu name, by the way. And the Hindus are known for their dancing. Even today, the Hindu ladies can dance, and that's kind of what they do. So he called for Vashti to come out and dance. By the way, Vashti is one of the daughters of one of the Hindu demigods. In their Vedas, in their, you know, what do you call it? Stories of their gods, pantheon. So Vashti was a daughter of one of these demigods that were worshipped as a god. So here is this Hindu lady, her name is Vashti. She's called upon to dance. And she says, well, I don't really feel to dance. And he says, no, you're going to dance. And she said, no, I'm not dancing. And his wise men said, his satraps said, no, you can't have it. You got to do something about Vashti. So he did. Vashti was banned, put out, completely disconnected from the great king Xerxes. And what happened? He decided that maybe it's time to take a new wife. Vashti is gone, I'll take a new wife. So he declared that the king will be seeking out a new wife. Mordecai now. Who's Mordecai? He's the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper in the ancient world for such a great king like Xerxes Let me say something about Susa, the capital of Persia. It was a magnificent wonder at that time. It was one of the wonders of the world. Susa was an incredible city, palace. And so this Mordecai was pretty important. He was the gatekeeper. And Mordecai heard about this incredible thing, and he said, okay, this is the opportunity for me to do something. And he went to his niece, whose name was Hadassah. And he said to her, you're going to become a crypto Jew. You know what a crypto Jew is? And anyone knows what a crypto Jew is? A crypto Jew? A hidden Jew. A Jew who is hidden behind the facade of being something else. Are there any other crypto Jews in the Bible that we can think about? Think about that. Are there any other crypto Jews that we can identify in the Bible? Moses. Moshe Rabbeinu. He was a crypto Jew, wasn't he? We say Jew, but he was a son of Israel. And so was Hadassah, daughter of Israel. But Moses was a crypto Bene Israel. He lived that way for how long? At least 40 years he lived as a crypto Jew. But listen to this. Who did Moses go on to become? The Redeemer of Israel. So you had a crypto Jew who embraced his actual identity and went on to be a Redeemer in Israel. Isn't that the story of Hadassah? It's the exact same story of Hadassah. She was, in fact, the quintessential crypto Jew. She came out, she revealed who she was, and in doing so, she redeemed all of Israel. All of Israel was redeemed by Hadassah and her incredible faith. So you got a story there of a couple of crypto Jews whose actions, whose faith brought redemption to Israel. There's another crypto Jew I'll talk about who's not in the Bible. And her name is Donna Garcia Mendez Nasi, a crypto Jew. Who's Donna Garcia Mendez Nasi? How does she relate to the story of Purim? Very well. You know, in synagogues around the world, in Sephardic synagogues around the world, crypto Jews historically love the story of Purim. They really identify with the story of Purim. You know why? Think about it. Why do crypto Jews, even the ones who exist today, and they exist in many places today, even in your country, yes, in West Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, they are still there today, and they're still hidden, believing that if they were to come out, they would be clubbed over their heads by the Vatican. Still today. They go back 500 years, friends. So the crypto Jews are alive in the world today. It's an amazing thing. So who's Donna Garcia Nasi Mendez? She's a Portuguese Jewess who was forcibly converted and had to flee from Portugal because that was the thing to do at that time, to accept conversion but get out as fast as you could. Now, Donna Garcia Mendez Nasi was an incredibly wealthy woman. It is said concerning Donna Garcia Mendez Nasi that if her wealth existed today, she would be the wealthiest woman alive. And that's true. And that's not my calculation. People in Israel, historians, they say that. She was an incredibly wealthy woman. How did she come about her wealth? She was Portuguese. She was born on the island of Madeira. She grew up in Oporto and then in Lisbon, and had to leave in a hurry because she was forcibly converted. How did she come upon her wealth? Her husband of the house of Mendez controlled all the spice that came from the Orient. Remember the Portuguese, they won that little battle between them and the Spaniards? Well, the house of Mendez controlled about 80% of the spice that came from the Orient. Very wealthy. Her husband died. She was like 24 years old when he died. She inherited all his wealth, and she was forcibly converted to become a Christian. What did this incredible woman do? Her zeal for Zion, her zeal for the people of Israel, led her to arrange a meeting with the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, Suleiman. And she sat with him, and she bargained with him. She used her incredible wealth and influence to buy the way of thousands of Jews into the land of Israel. Thousands. This is in the year 1525. This incredible woman refused to revert back to her ancestral faith as a Jew because she knew that if she maintained her Christian status, it would give her more power. and she would be able to redeem more and be responsible for more sons of Israel and daughters of Israel to enter into the land of Israel. This incredible woman was almost single-handedly responsible for the very early Zionist movement. Jews returning to the land of Israel. She financed the building of Tiberias. There's a museum there, we're going to go see it. Donna Garcia Nasi Mendez Museum. She single-handedly purchased Tiberias and gave it over to the local Jews. She financed the building of Sfed, that incredible city of Sfed, one of the holy sites in Israel. She financed the building of scholastic centers in Jerusalem. She financed the building of synagogues in Hebron in the 1500s, all because of her incredible faith and her unwillingness to succumb. She could have reverted back to her ancestral faith. It would have meant that she would have lost everything, but she kept that identity as a crypto-Jew so that she can be effective. Many people, if you speak to historians today in Israel and Jewish people in general, they will tell you Donna Garcia Nasi Mendez is one of the greatest Jewess who ever lived. You don't hear much about her because she is a Christian, but she's a crypto-Jew. So here you have another example. You have Moses, you have Esther, and you have Donna Garcia Nasi Mendez, who is so incredibly important to today's Zionist movement. So the story of Esther is about a crypto Jew who re-embraces her actual identity and becomes this incredible redeeming figure in the midst of Israel. Think about it. We know the story, right? We don't have to rehash the whole story. What happened? Artaxerxes, he couldn't sleep, lots on his mind, I guess. He's dealing with anxiety or whatever. They didn't have melatonin back then, I guess, or whatever. And so he couldn't sleep. What happened? He called for someone to read him into a state of slumber. So his readers came in, they read for him, and he didn't sleep. And then he heard about, in the annals of the great king, he heard about Mordecai, how Mordecai saved his life. This Jew saved his life by identifying possible assassins, right? You know the story. And he said, whoa, wait a minute, back up here. Tell me about this Mordecai. So they told him about Mordecai. He sleeps. He gets up the next morning, and he's all excited. Haman walks in just at the right time, for such a time as that. Haman walked in, and he said, Haman, come over here. I got something to talk to you about. Haman comes over. He said, the king's going to talk to me now. Yeah, me, of course. I'm Haman. And the king says, I have someone in the kingdom that I want to honor. I want to do something really special for him. He's such a special person. What do you think I should do for this person? And Haman, of course, a bit of a narcissist. It's all about him, right? He says, well, this must be me. It must be pertaining to me. So Haman, being the narcissist that he is and the very self-centered person that he is, he said, okay, here's what you do, king. Let's see, I'm thinking. I know. What you do is, you let him ride your horse. You give him your gong and your crown. Let's see. And you let him ride through the city, saying, this is the man that the king has determined to honor, or something along those lines. So Haman had this wonderful idea for himself, and of course, it wasn't Haman. It was Mordecai. What did this do to Haman? It infuriated him even more, determined even more to get rid of Mordecai. Why? Because Mordecai was a threat to Haman. Now, in the story, Mordecai is a type of Israel. We're talking typologies. Mordecai is a type of Israel. Esther is a type of, we'll talk about that in a moment, but we know who Mordecai is. Haman is. Haman is a type of Amalek. Very clear, you can't miss it. And so, you have Amalek plotting against Israel. It's the same story. It's what's happening today. Why was Haman really concerned about Mordecai? Because Mordecai threatened him. Mordecai was a threat. Why is Amalek threatened by Israel today? Ponder that question for a moment. Why is Haman in this allegorical picture? Why is Amalek today threatened by Israel? Why did Hitler determine to destroy all of Israel? Why did the Inquisition, the conversions, determine that every Jew had to be converted? Why does that exist? Why is anti-Semitism arising in the earth today again as it is? Why is Amalek afraid of Israel? Someone answer that question. What is the pressure? Because Amalek knows that Israel is destined and appointed by God to lead the nations. Israel is that nation, not Amalek. Amalek wants to usurp that position, wanted to from the very beginning. God is preparing one nation under the sun to lead all the nations into his kingdom, and that one nation is Israel. Israel is the leading nation. Amalek wants to usurp that lead, and therefore is horribly, horribly afraid of Israel. And that's why they work to destroy Israel. That's why Soros and all of the globalists, what's the name of the new globalist on the block? Cloud, whatever, Schwabi or whatever his name is. What's his deal? What's his deal? He's just one in a line of many globalists who are determined that Israel will not be a state for much longer. All right, so Amalek is horrified that Israel will actually come to the fullness of its call and appointment. What did Paul say in Romans chapter 11 about the gifts and callings? Irrevocable. Who was he speaking to? Us? Is that a reference that we should appropriate for ourselves? Who exactly was he speaking of? The nation of Israel. And he said concerning Israel that the gifts and callings are irrevocable. That is to say that exactly what God has appointed Israel to be, they shall be. A leader of all the nations, Amalek is afraid of it. And Amalek wants to ensure that Israel never attains to that position. That's Haman. That's Mordecai. So let's talk about Hadassah, Esther. Crypto-Jew, Esther. Esther now lives a happy life. She's a pagan. You know, Jewish people like to say, oh, the word Esther doesn't mean Ishtar, doesn't connect to the word Ishtar. Yes, it does. We don't like to believe that, but it does. I've done the research, I've done the footwork. She took a pagan name. Why did she take the pagan name Ishtar or Esther? Because she was a crypto-pagan. She was a pagan, a crypto-Jew. She took on that identity because it was to be favored by the king. And so she took on the identity of a pagan goddess. Lived a good life in the palace. No one knows for sure how long she lived like that for. But the time came when Israel was brought under stress, to the brink of destruction, and she was called upon to act. Initially, she didn't want to, right? You know the story? But then she was confronted by Mordecai. And what did Mordecai say to Esther? We'll look at the references on Sunday morning. I'm just going to go through this real quick and come to an end. What did he say to Esther? All right? He basically said, if you don't act, God will raise up someone else to do this thing. You can step aside, or you can take your position. That's what he said. But how do you not know that you were called for such a time as this? And that word of faith given by Mordecai is what stirred in Esther, and she finally said, that's it. Call for a time of fast and prayer, and I'm going to go before the king, and she does. And this completely changes the whole story, and she becomes this incredible redeeming factor. Sunday morning, we'll explore this more completely. The Church of Christ, the bride of Messiah, is also a crypto-Jew. The bride of Christ is a crypto-Jew. The church today is unaware of its connection to Israel. Not even considering that we're actually grafted into Israel. We're the bride to be of the great King of Israel, King of the Jews. Is Jesus the King of the Jews? Or was he the King of the Jews? Is he or was he? He is. He is the great King. He is the Moshiach ben David, the son of David, who will come and reign in the earth. You know, I'm seeing a marvelous thing happening, even with this revival thing that's happening in Kentucky and other places. People are singing about, talking about the reality of Jesus' actual reign in the earth. And they're doing away with this, you know, esoteric, Gnostic idea of Jesus in the sky. And that's where we go, and that's where heaven. No, many Christians, and it's about time, are awakening to this simple fact. He's coming here, and he's coming to set up an actual kingdom. He's going to be a great king, ruling in the earth with a bride, a Jewish bride, a church who will re-embrace her right identity. Folks, how did we lose our identity, Christianity, the bride of Christ? How did we lose our identity? We were beaten out of it by the Byzantine church. We were beaten out of it. The Byzantine church deemed that any Christian, this is in the 3rd century, any believer, any Christian who are now a part of our great imperial Christian movement, any Christian who identifies with Israel, who keeps the Sabbath on Saturday, who keeps the festivals, they are anathema. They are Judaizers, and the only end for a Judaizer is the end. That's what the Byzantine church decided. And they picked up spears, they picked up lances and shields, they got on their horses with chariots, and they marched into the land of Israel with a determination to annihilate the church of Messiah Jesus, the Nazarenes, the Nazarene, the church that identified rightly with Israel. And pretty much beat it out of us. Oh, but we're still here, aren't we? Why are we still here? I'm going to end with this. Why are we still here? This is why we're still here. The Word of God is forever. And if you are free in the Spirit of God to open this book and read it and believe it, you're going to ask questions like, why am I identifying with an imperial Christianity? What's the history behind that? You're going to search it and you're going to discover that that is the Byzantine church. That is an imperial form of Christianity. Do I want to be a part of it? Does that align with the Bible? What does the Bible tell us about who we should be in Christ? Grafted into Israel, the bride of the Jewish king. You see, and to be continued on Sunday morning, the church is a crypto-Jew. She's like Esther, living pretty comfortably as a pagan, but soon will be called upon to make a decision. Pagan Esther's got to go. Hadassah will take her place. The Jewish princess will take her place and make the right decision. She's raised her for such a time as this. Vashti will go her way. You see, it's Vashti and Hadassah. It's not Vashti and Esther. It's Vashti and Hadassah. The church will make a decision. Is the bride of Christ going to stand with Israel at this critical time? Or are we going to continue to be imperial? Whether you're Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, whatever you are, you're part of a global church. Don't kid yourselves. The ecumenical order has sealed it. It is signed and delivered. Whatever denomination that you're a part of, you're tied into a global movement. It's called ecumenicalism. It's the imperial church once again. It's no different. It is a branch of Amalek. We have to decide. The church has to decide. The bride of Christ has to decide. Do I continue to be Esther, or should I become Hadassah and effect a deliverance in the earth? Is the church going to be a part of this deliverance process when Christ comes? Where do you get that idea from? What are we going to do? What can we do to be a part of this great deliverance? Well, according to Revelation chapter 19, he's coming on a white horse, King of kings and Lord of lords, and we're coming with him on white horses. We're called the armies which are in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. That's what we're called. It's time to wake up. The church is going to be just going to be faced with an opportunity to awaken. And it's happening, folks. It's happening. Don't kid yourselves. I like this revival because I know with everything in me, this revival is going to lead to multitudes and multitudes of young Christians saying, I'm done with that other Christianity. I'm over that other Christianity. I want to know about this Jesus who's coming. I want to know about this great king who will rule in the earth and put an end to everything that's wrong with this planet. See, that's the message of the kingdom of God. That's the message that Jesus actually preached, that a kingdom is coming. And that kingdom will bring salvation to all creation, and he will reign. What did Paul say in Romans chapter 8? All of creation awaits this kingdom. They await it. Sons of God. That's who we are. So Sunday, I'm going to really tease this out more carefully for us. Today was chaotic, and I didn't get to really put it together right for you. But Sunday, I'll do it. And it's about Purim. It's about Purim. We celebrate Purim in the spirit. We don't celebrate Purim with, the traditional things, tops and candy wrapped in gold and silver, and that's not what we do. Right? The kids might do something like that. But we celebrate the essence of Purim, which is redemption. The end of Amalek. The beginning of God's kingdom. Shabbat Shalom.